Hello learners, welcome to the session on carcinogenicity. I am Dr. Manisha Pandey, Biochemistry Faculty, School of Sciences, Indira Gandhi National Open University. In the program on Postgraduate Diploma in Environmental and Occupational Health, while studying the course on Environmental Toxicology, in the program Postgraduate Diploma in Environmental and Occupational Health, while going through the course Environmental Toxicology, you'll come across the unit Carcinogenicity. In this session, we will be dealing with carcinogenicity. What is carcinogenicity? Actually, carcinogenicity is the ability or tendency to cause cancer. And if you look at the global statistics, you'll find that after diabetes, cancer is one of the major causes of suffering and death, and it is the second most fatal disease after cardiovascular diseases. If we look at the carcinogens or the agents, chemicals which can cause tumor or cancer, chemicals account for 80% of the cancers caused, while viruses account for roughly 12 to 20% of the cancer. So in this session, we will be dealing primarily with the carcinogens, that is agents and chemicals which cause cancer, and later on we will also look into carcinogenesis, which is the process of development of cancer. As I mentioned, chemicals or substances which induce cancer are carcinogens. So how they do cause the cancer? When we apply these chemicals on our body parts, skin, or we take it, consume it in the food or through inhalation, through ingestion, these carcinogens increase the incidence of cancer or they shorten the time span of cancer occurrence, tumor occurrence. They also act by changing our DNA. The genome, the human genome, can be altered by the application of chemicals, and they change the genetic makeup leading to mutations, and these mutations then lead to tumors or cancers. Then there are very environmental factors also, like our lifestyle, our dietary habits, the kind of food we consume, behavioral things like tobacco consumption, sedentary lifestyle, physical activity. These things do add to the incidence of tumor incidence as well as cause of cancers. So let's get into the details of carcinogens. Carcinogens, as I mentioned, 80% of the cancer caused is due to chemicals. So we can classify these carcinogens based on their mechanism of action, then their chemical nature, or the way they act. So let's look into the different ways of classifying these carcinogens and how do they affect us. The first way of classifying carcinogen is based on their mechanism of action, like whether it is a direct acting carcinogen or it is indirectly acting. So on the basis of mechanism of action, we have got three types of carcinogen. One is direct action carcinogen or the ultimate carcinogens. Another is pro-carcinogen, and the third category is co-carcinogens. As the name itself says, direct action or ultimate carcinogens are those whose structure is such that they have the inherent tendency to induce cancer. So these chemicals do not require any metabolic action or activation inside the host organism. Their structure is such that they can induce cancer on their own, like many alkylating agents. This direct action carcinogens also include nitrosamines, epoxides, ethyleneamines, beta-propiolactone, to name few of them. Here I would like to add that the structure of these direct or ultimate carcinogens is such that they have the ability to induce cancer on their own, and they do not require any molecular modification or structural activation. Now we will talk about procarcinogens. Procarcinogens as the name says, they are not actually initially carcinogenic. Rather, they are non-carcinogenic, but once inside the organism's body, they undergo metabolism, and once they are metabolized, then they become potent carcinogen. So, procarcinogen needs to be activated metabolically to become a carcinogen. For example, many aminojoic colorants, aromatic hydrocarbons, aflatoxins, aromatic amines, urethane, these are procarcinogens, and experimentally it has been found that cytochromes play a very important role in the activation of these procarcinogens, such as aflatoxin B1 and many other structurally diverse chemical compounds. When activated or when they react with cytochrome P450, they become active carcinogens. Here I would like to add one more thing. You would have heard of cytochromes while studying the respiration or oxidative processes in your schools and other university courses. So, cytochrome is actually a heme protein, and they have very important role to perform. Cytochrome P450 is also a heme protein, and it has a very significant role in metabolism of many drugs and xenobiotics. So, what happens? Cytochrome P450 is, when it interacts with many chemicals, it undergoes or it leads to at times drug-drug interaction, which becomes fatal or which gives us the cause for inducing cancer, you can say. At one hand, the cytochrome P450 is essential for drug metabolism, xenobiotic metabolism, while on the other hand, sometimes these are activated by the drugs which we take, and then it leads to drug-drug interaction also, which has negative role to play. Now, I will talk about the co-carcinogen. As the name says, co-carcinogens are actually chemical substances which are not directly carcinogenic, but they have the helper role in carcinogenesis. Helper role means they assist, they enhance, they promote. So, when there is some carcinogenic substance in our body and it induces cancer, if co-carcinogen is present there, it will promote the activity, it will initiate or it will enhance the stages of cancer initiation. So, co-carcinogens enhance the effect of other carcinogens, and some of the examples of co-carcinogens are certain viruses, tars, pesticides, tobacco, alcohol, hair dyes. We discussed the one way of classifying carcinogen, which was based on the mechanism of action. Now, I will discuss about the another way of categorizing carcinogens. It is whether it is genotoxic or non-genotoxic. The geno or non-geno, the word geno indicates genome, the genetic component. Now, any chemical substance can be genotoxic if it possesses the ability to interact with DNA or our cellular mechanism, and then it has the capacity to alter the integrity of our genome. On the other hand, if the carcinogen or the chemical moiety is not directly interacting with DNA, then it is said to be non-genotoxic carcinogen. But these non-genotoxic carcinogens, although they are not directly interacting with the genome, but they have the ability to enhance tumor progression by affecting gene expression or cellular proliferation. So, what they will do? They will increase the protein synthesis, or they will increase the rate of cell proliferation. Number of cells will multiply very fast. So, in that way, they do not react with or they do not interact directly with the DNA, but they interact with the metabolic processes, and in that way they help in tumor progression or tumor induction. Another way of classifying carcinogens is it can be broadly divided into whether it is a physical factor or a biological factor. So physical factor or physical carcinogens include radiations, non-radiations. If we talk of radiation, the radiations can be ionizing radiation as well as non-ionizing radiation. It also includes the ultraviolet light. And both the forms of radiations, whether ionizing or non-ionizing, they have been found to have a significant role in human cancer. In both the cases, what happens, it may lead to mutation, and these mutations have a long latency period. Say for example, due to radiation, a mutation may occur and the person will not show any symptoms of tumor for as long as 10 to 20 years. But after certain period, because of the presence of some carcinogen or co-carcinogen, the effect can be seen. So physical radiations physical carcinogens or radiations may affect in that way. If we talk about UV radiation has the penetrating effect. It can penetrate our skin up to few millimeters, and in this way they inhibit cell division, they inactivate many enzymes, they cause DNA damage, they lead to cell death, they sometimes lead to production of free radicals, and in this way they damage the protective pigment melanin of our skin and thus lead to skin cancer. Ionizing radiations like X-rays, alpha rays, beta rays, gamma rays, radioisotopes, what they do, they induce mutagenesis, they interact with DNA. So you can say these radiations are also genotoxic, and they may also lead to chromosomal breakage, translocation of chromosomes, mutations can be point mutations. So these radiations lead to some damage in the genome. They may lead to the formation of reactive free radicals, and these free radicals then bring about the damage. This can cause leukemia, this can cause thyroid cancer, skin, breast, ovary, skin, breast, ovary, lung, salivary gland. So many type of cancers can be caused because of the presence or exposure to ionizing radiations. Then there is non-radiation physical factors. What does it mean? They are not exactly the physical factors, they don't have the ionizing effect, but when we are exposed to them, for example asbestos, tar, then another thing is sometimes we go for a transplant. In that case, is sometimes the stones in our body, and then surgery. So these factors also sometimes lead to induction of tumors. They may act as carcino, or sometimes these factors may also act as carcinogenic factors. Now I'll talk about the last part of it. Said we can classify broadly into physical factors as well as biological factors. The biological factors, if you look at the statistics I mentioned in the beginning, 80% of the chemicals account for cancer cases, and 12 to 20% of the cancers are because of viruses, and these viruses are actually the biological carcinogens, you can say. Rest can be attributed to other biological entities such as parasites, fungus, bacteria. So these transmissible biological agents have a very significant role, and they infection sometimes takes long time and then manifests into the disease. If we look at the parasite as an example, Schistosoma hematobium is associated with the carcinoma of urinary bladder. Another parasite, Clonorchis sinensis, is a liver fluke and it causes the bile duct cancer. Fungus too have a very significant role. Many fungus like Aspergillus flavus, Aspergillus parasiticus, they release toxins which are termed as mycotoxins. Any toxin released by fungus is termed as mycotoxin, and the toxin released by Aspergillus species is termed as aflatoxins. These toxins are actually poisonous and carcinogenic, and they have been proved to have role in hepatocellular carcinoma. You would have seen that sometimes when cereals are stored for long time, then you can observe blacks thing there and then black spots, and they have very toxic or pungent smell. So this is actually the fungal infection and release of mycotoxins which gives that aroma. Apart from fungus, bacteria too have been reported to be the causal organism for cancer. For example, Helicobacter pylori causes ulcers and which leads to stomach cancer. Salmonella typhi is associated with gallbladder cancer. Then Streptococcus bovis, another species, is associated with colorectal cancer. Then there is Chlamydia, which causes lung cancer, and there are many more, many bacterial species associated with the tumor induction and progression, you can say. But the one good thing here is Salmonella species is also used in delivering the chemotherapeutic agents for the treatment of melanoma, colon and bladder cancer. So when we study these biological agents, sometimes we say bacteria is good for us, bacteria is equally bad for us. So here Salmonella typhi is causing gallbladder cancer, but at the same time it is being used as a drug delivery agent also. Now I will like to elaborate upon viruses. Viruses account for roughly 12 to 20% of the cancer caused by the biological agents, and these viruses can be divided into two categories broadly: the DNA oncogenic viruses and the RNA oncogenic viruses. And they induce mutation in the, both of them have the ability to induce mutation in the host cell. Now in RNA viruses, RNA is the genetic material, while in DNA viruses, DNA is the genetic material. If we look at the example of RNA viruses, you would have heard of hepatitis C virus, you would have heard of HIV, the human immunodeficiency virus, and both these viruses have a very high rate of mutation, and as compared to the DNA viruses, in general RNA viruses have very high rate of mutation. They cause more mutations vis-a-vis the DNA viruses. Here I would like to emphasize on one more point: viral infection alone is not responsible for oncogenesis. There are multi-steps in the process of cancer development, and they all together lead to the progression of cancer. So we have discussed various ways of classifying the carcinogens. Let's summarize what we did. We can broadly classify the carcinogens on the basis of mechanism of action, like ultimate carcinogens or direct acting carcinogens, then pro-carcinogens or co-carcinogens, then genotoxic or non-genotoxic. But here we can put the entire thing together, like radiation may lead to tumor, or radiation can act as a carcinogen, in which we have ionizing radiation, UV radiation, non-ionizing radiation, gamma rays, so many things. Then infection could lead to carcinogenesis, like viruses, bacteria, fungus, parasites. There are many chemicals which we come across. It may be occupational, from our workplace, like arsenic, asbestos, coal, soot, or polyaromatic hydrocarbons. Then chemicals which we acquire by our behavioral habits, like tobacco, alcohol. It could be dietary thing, what we consume, it could be calorie, it could be low fiber, it could be our physical activity, whether we are sedentary or we are active. So many things put together act or induce. So many things put together may act as a carcinogen, or it may act as a co-carcinogen or pro-carcinogen and lead to tumor induction. Thank you.